Welcome back, everyone, to CoffeeU. It's so nice to be here with you today.
Yes, it is.
I'm Nathan.
I'm Brad.
And today we have a very specialty guest with us.
Yes, we do.
Director of Marketing for Baba Java Coffee, Randy Webb. Welcome, Randy.
Glad to be here. Excited.
How you doing today, bud?
I'm doing really good.
Yeah?
It's another day. I'm breathing.
Yeah?
Good reason to smile.
Breathing clouds of yellow clouds of pollen in the Alabama
And you
spring.
can hear it in our voices, too,
Yeah, so
fortunately.
yeah, we've got a couple of frogs here today. So as the frogs are talking, we hope you learn a little bit about coffee. These are some very interesting topics that we're going to be discussing today. We're going to be talking about the impact of specialty coffee. And so Randy's going to be sharing some personal stories. He's going to be sharing about an experience he had recently. And then Brad's going to be sharing a lot about the impact of coffee. So, Randy, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us what your role with Baba Java Coffee is.
Well, yeah, my name is Randy Webb. I am the marketing director for Baba Java. We handle everything from digital marketing, which is the Google ads that show up in your news feed, all the way to the social media posts, things that happen in the cafes, like our Origin of the Month and other initiatives to help connect customers with the topic that we're going to talk about today.
Sounds good. So one thing we always want to talk about with our guests and people we have on the show is your coffee story. So why don't you share your coffee story?
Yeah, I remember my first cup of coffee as clear as day. My dad was a truck driver when I grew up. My uncle owned a trucking company. My entire family was truck drivers, my cousins, my uncle, my dad. And one summer I was out of school, elementary school age kid on the road with my dad in the big rig.
Well, that would be fun.
It was probably not supposed to be on the road with him. I'm not sure what the laws were back then, but we got to a place far off city, dark. The only thing open is a 24-hour truck stop diner. Need fuel in the truck, and none of the company payment methods work. And it was a long time ago, so I don't remember what all that entailed. But I do remember sitting there in the booth and Dad trying to work out a way to pay for the fuel with him, because he could see me getting worried as a young kid that we were just going to be stuck there forever.
Living
right?
in a diner.
Yeah, living in a diner. And so, I mean, I remember him even offering to pawn up his wedding bands to get us back on the road to pay for the gas. And then this lady who, some of you are old enough to remember Flo, like Kiss My Grits, this very hardened, war-battled, waitress from this truck stop diner brought me a piece of cherry pie and a cup of coffee, which was probably, who knows, Folgers and
Sure.
That's probably one of the Folgers, yeah.
like a wet cigarette ash.
And of course, yes, and of course, that's what you bring elementary school age kids is coffee, right?
Yeah. But something about that piece of pie, that warm drink, like settled my nerves. And however the situation ended, like I don't remember that part. What I remember is that lady bringing me the cup of coffee.
And the coffee.
And so something about that warm drink from that point on meant something to me. So, we would stop at a gas station. I would go in with my dad, and my mother would get a soda. I'd get styrofoam cup and terrible gas station coffee, because like I had this connection to this thing. And as I got older, I'm a learner, and so anything that I get into, I get really into. Mm-hmm. And so my coffee journey started going deeper and deeper. I started getting into specialty coffee. My friends called me a coffee snob. I like to use the word connoisseur. And this shop opened up in my town. It was a soft opening, and a friend called me and said, "Hey, what are you doing today?" A guy named Roger.
We know Roger.
Everybody around here knows him. And so I show up to go to this new coffee shop with him, and it's Baba Java. And I became an instant fan. Me and you had some past connections that we figured out, and so became friends with the folks that worked there. I started working out of Baba Java. I made it my office. I was there all the time. And then as a marketer, I was part of an ad agency, and Baba Java became a client. And for 4, almost 5 years,
like that,
we had that relationship. And then I decided through some family things, my brother had dealt with cancer, and we had a 4-year-old girl at the time that he passed, and I decided that I wanted to deal with one client a day instead of 40, is the short story.
Yeah.
And I came to you guys because I didn't know where I was going to end up, but I really loved the way that you did business, and I loved the relationship we had. I loved the mission of your business.
Yeah.
And one thing led to another, and a few months later, I started as the marketing director. So now I get to work in a place that's also a passion. So it's
great.
fantastic.
Well, we loved having you. You've been fantastic joining the marketing team, but even the Baba Java team in general. Everyone loves having you around, and get to talk all the time for different topics when you're with people, from bike racing to cameras, and you've gotten me nerded out on fountain pens, so it's pretty fun.
Yeah, Randy's a musician. He teaches.
That's right. Yeah.
Teaches in his church and works with the youth and rides bikes. He exercises. He's kind of a health guy, which I need. I need as much help with that as possible.
We joke in my family, the only thing I don't do is sleep.
Yeah, sometimes I wonder that about
There's
you.
not much time. There's not much time for that.
Well, tell us about your family.
Yeah, I have a wife and a daughter. My wife works inside sales and industrial business. We're really involved in our church. My daughter works for us as a barista in a Homewood store.
She's fantastic.
I had always said that I would never, let family work together. I thought that would be a terrible thing for some reason in my mind. But because of what Baba Java is and the people that work here, when she brought up the idea, I was 100% on board for it. And she has really enjoyed being here and the things she's learned.
She's fit in very well at Homewood. So you can.
She was not a coffee drinker and is now a coffee drinker.
Wow.
Love it.
All
And
right.
a really cool tie with that is that I have been a fan of Ethiopia-based coffees for a long time. I call it the poor man's geisha. And so that's what we've always had in the house. Riley was not a coffee drinker. She got certified as a barista, started working here, started to really taste the difference between what she thought was coffee or drinks from other places that were coffee-based that she didn't like. And then she started to fall in love with coffee, and she really fell in love with our Dominican Republic.
Oh, so really? Okay.
I switched my personal subscription to the Dominican coffee because I really like it too. I just happen to like the Ethiopias and had been stuck in my ways. And so we drink the Dominican coffee every day at my house.
Yeah, Ethiopia felt betrayed after that.
They did.
I'm sure they do. But I make up for it in the store.
That's right. That's right. Well, that's almost a good segue. We're going to get to Dominican Republic in just a second, but before we do that, we really need to talk about kind of our commitment as a coffee buyer and how we want to make sure it impacts all the communities involved, not just our community here in Hoover, Birmingham, Homewood, but also the communities where the coffee comes from. So even from the beginning, our goal has always been to purchase coffees that have an impact on their communities, making sure that we're buying from farms that are sustainable, meaning we know they're going to be around and they are using methods, growing, processing, shipping, selling, all that is sustainable for them. And also that it's traceable, that you know where your coffee is coming from.
Right.
That it's not just this huge corporation buying all these coffees from different farms. You know where they're coming from, who the farmers are, who the producers are. What we want to help people understand is when you go to buy a cup of coffee or a bag of coffee, that the money you're spending is actually directly going to help the communities where that coffee is coming from. So with that in mind, tell us about the experience you had a few weeks ago.
Yeah, Randy had a unique opportunity. One of the people that we buy coffee from buys from a farm in the Dominican Republic, and so he gave us an opportunity for somebody from Baba Java to go down and visit the farm and visit the farmers and see what's going on. And so we immediately thought that Randy would be the perfect person to go and visit the farm. So tell us about that, Randy.
Yeah. So I went with one of our partners, his team, and several other buyers that are coffee shops like us from around the country that use the coffee from the Ramirez Estate. And we went to the Dominican to visit, to see the farm, to see the facility, to experience the community and how it's been impacted by specialty coffee there in the area. Coffee has always been part of that area, but specialty coffee has only a recent change there in the last 15 years. And it's had some pretty massive impacts, not just on individuals, but on the town that borders the farm area as a whole.
Randy, tell us about some of the people that were on the trip.
Yeah, it was an insanely diverse group of people. There was a guy named Elias, who is an Ethiopian, who's originally from the Sidama area, which is where one of our coffees comes from. He has a giant roastery and roastery training facility in New York City and a cafe. Happens to be the cafe that Lin-Manuel Miranda hangs out at.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's cool.
That's really neat.
Elias is a super humble dude, knows his stuff, really awesome. We had a 19-year-old kid who's a rancher in Montana who runs a coffee business that raises money to help other people in agriculture in that area of the country.
Cool.
He sells his coffee in like 100 and some odd stores
Gracious.
over 3 states. He's 19 years old. Like, he had barely seen the ocean, much less traveled outside the country. His name is Summit Browning. That real name, you could not have a name that fit the guy anymore. Like, he wore his flat bill. Like, when I say cowboy hat, I don't mean like Southern modern cowboy hat.
Right.
I mean, looks like straight out of the 1800s.
Awesome.
And so I've been in contact with Summit since he left. As a matter of fact, today some of Summit's coffee is showing up at my house.
Oh, wow.
So we'll
That's
all
awesome.
get to try it. Hector, who was born and raised in the Dominican, but has a coffee shop and lives in New York City also. He's one of Elias's competitors. But they get along fantastically. Everybody on the trip did. Hector was the life of the party. He has more energy. Like, if you could bottle what Hector has, man, you could
Yeah, I
make
need some of that for
bazillion
sure.
dollars. I mean, he is nonstop. We had Dr. Lena with us, who is a Colombian researcher. She's studying...
Like the country Columbia or the University of Columbia?
She's originally from the country Columbia, but she lives in the Carolinas and works at one of the universities, and they are studying the effects of everything through the process of growing to processing to roasting, and how that affects caffeine, how that affects the other health benefits or negatives that might come from coffee, and how to mitigate or expand the good, mitigate the bad.
Right.
They're really interesting stuff.
That's interesting.
There was another importer on the trip, which is friends with the our partner that we work with. They help each other in that world. Same mission minded focus. And then there was another guy from South Carolina. He has a nonprofit based company that raises money. He sells coffee and raises money for different organizations. I'm trying to think if I left anybody out. It was a big group. Joey had his head roaster, his quality control person there, and Joey himself. It was, you couldn't have had a more broad background history, where people were from, religious beliefs, whatever. But it was really cool. Like, there was not a moment where anybody got on anybody else's nerves, because we were all there because we love coffee and because we want to see what we do in our work make a positive impact in the world. And those two things kept the group together like glue, and it was really awesome.
It's fantastic. And that Joey you're talking about is Joey Stazone from Cafe Creole, who's been a longtime partner of ours. We've been buying coffee from him since we started. So
you had the people at the Ramirez Estate at the processing facility joked with Joey. They called him a pirate. They said he was Johnny Depp's character from,
Oh, man, that's funny.
from the movies.
well, he kind of looks like it with his earrings and his longer beard, and see that.
Is he Bedouin?
No, I think he's actually Italian.
Yeah, I think
So at the place where we lived in Jordan, we lived in this
funny.
city called Wadi Musa, and Wadi Musa is a city where Petra is. Petra is like one of the 7 wonders of the world, ancient Nabatean city carved in rock. Anyway, the people that run Petra are Bedouins, and for some reason, all the Bedouins there dress like Captain Jack Sparrow. All of them. I don't know why.
I can confirm this is true after visiting there. It
I
was
always,
amazing.
I kept telling people that, and they're like,
Earrings,
whatever. They don't think that.
eye makeup.
They dress like Captain
it's
Jack
wild.
Sparrow. I don't know why, but they do. So anyway, that's why I said that. So anyway. Randy, tell us about the area and the people.
Yeah. So the Dominican Republic, obviously in the Caribbean, shares part of the landmass with Haiti. It's an island that's 2 countries.
Hispaniola.
Split in 2.
Island of Hispaniola.
Right. And historically, one of the poorest places, if not the poorest, in this hemisphere.
Yeah.
Haiti is still in that bucket.
Yeah.
They're struggling, yeah.
60% of the people there live below the poverty line.
Yeah.
Have food and water insecurity. The Dominican is become a developing country, so they are making strides in all kinds of ways, but still 40% of the people there live below the poverty line and have food and water insecurity. It's a very different place from here and how we live, and even the folks that have means there still have some inconveniences that we would consider hardships.
Right.
And so it's just a different pace of life, a different way to live. I'll tell you a story. On the way down, I don't check bags when I fly. I can go 2 weeks with a 40-liter backpack and my camera sling for multiple reasons. It makes it easier to travel. I also don't have to worry about losing bags, especially when I'm traveling internationally. And this is not my first trip to the Dominican, but as I got to the gate to walk onto the plane, like I'm in the last boarding group, and the lady says, "We're out of overhead space. I have to take your backpack and check it." And so I think, well, they're going to do that plane side thing where they just hand it back to me when I get to Miami, right?
Yeah.
And so she puts a little tag on it. She says, "You'll pick this up when you land in the Dominican." And it's a backpack. I don't have my name on it. Like, I wasn't planning to check it. It's like everything but my cameras, which are in my sling bag, are in that bag. And so for 2 flights, like, all I'm thinking about is, what am I going to do when I show up and I don't have any belongings or my bag?
That would be wild.
And so we're on the flight from Miami to the Dominican, and as the plane starts to land, that's where my brain is at. I have to rush through immigration and get to that carousel in a hurry and make sure that my bag's there, and so I can quit freaking out. And so that's all I'm worried about. And when the plane touches down, and I've experienced this on other trips to the Dominican, as soon as the wheels hit the ground and the front wheel hits the ground and the brakes come on, the entire plane, which is full of Dominicans coming home, erupts in cheers and applause, and because they're thankful the plane landed, right? Like, it's something. The first 10 years of my career, I flew twice a week. Takeoff and landing is just a thing. But being thankful over something that I just take for granted, while I'm freaking out about, do I have clothes? That was kind of the first moment of the trip where I was slapped back into that. Oh yeah, I might not always realize it in my day-to-day, but like, my life is a lot different than where I'm headed.
Interesting.
Yeah. The city of Jarabacoa is just below where the processing plant is. Jarabacoa sits at the base of the highest mountain range in the Caribbean. So all the farms are up the mountains. Jarabacoa is a really cool city, lots of restaurants and nightlife. It's actually where the Dominicans go to vacation. So the Dominican, one of their only industries for a long time was tourism, but they've got these resorts that are there that are kind of like the resorts in Cancun and Mexico. I call them America Light because you're not really experiencing the culture when you're there. So Jarabacoa, there's not a lot of people speaking English back to you. There's not a lot of people, like the lady at the hotel gave me grief because my Spanish is nearly non-existent. And she said, next time I come back, I better know Spanish. And so it's a really cool city, but, you know, they don't have as many cars as we have. You know, if you need transportation there, 90% of the time you're on the back of a motorcycle or scooter taxi.
All right.
The people that do have transportation, more often than not, it's just a scooter or a motorcycle. They like to saw the mufflers off because they think loud sounds cool, which makes it hard to sleep at night.
Yeah, I'm sure.
You know, they don't have stop signs or red lights at intersections, so four-way stops are really interesting. Yeah. And so the power may go out there once a day, twice a day. It may be out for 8 hours. It may be out for 8 minutes. Their plumbing is not made as robustly as ours. You know, not to get weirdly gross, but you can't flush toilet paper there.
Yep,
like everything has to go.
Like
yeah. And so there are lots of little things that even in a nicer city like that, where there's subtle things that go, they're not quite as developed here or as spoiled here as we are. Yeah. That said, these people are incredibly hard workers. They're incredibly proud of the things they do have. And they are some of the nicest folks that you'll meet in your life.
So talk about, so you went on the trip and you're with this group and you went to the farm and you saw processing facilities and the nursery and basically everything that Ramirez Estate does. So talk about that section of that aspect of the trip.
Yeah, the first full day we went straight to the processing facility after breakfast. And then we went through everything. We first visited their in-house coffee shop, met the Ramirez family and some of their closest team members. We presented them with a magazine that they had been featured in that they didn't know that Joey's team had brought from Roast Magazine.
Oh, yeah.
And so after that, we started our tour.
They didn't know they were in Roast Magazine.
They didn't, and it was the cover story, and so it was a really cool. Handed them framed versions of the article. It really, Joey's team helped facilitate that article, and it was cool because it was not about Joey. It was not about the buyers. It was all about the Ramirez's and the Dominican and their impact. And so, and how popular that coffee is around the world. So it was a really cool surprise for them, and they were really proud of that, as they should be. For me, I'm a fresh insider in the coffee world. Like I know and love coffee. I understood processing, I thought, until I got there and I saw it hands-on, and there's something different about being there and experiencing it than there is about reading it. And I still don't know if I could adequately explain all the intricacies. But the thing that struck me was just how much work, how many people, and how tedious some of that processing can be. And like the whole time I'm looking around and watching this, I'm thinking, how in the world does coffee not cost, $100 a bag all the time? And if it doesn't cost $100 a bag, and this is all the labor that goes into it, are these people really being treated?
It's a valid question.
And so, as the trip goes on, that question's answered very clearly for me. And so, but that's how my brain started working as we were walking around the processing facility.
If that were happening in the United States, it would cost $200 a bag.
Yeah.
I mean, for sure.
Well,
absolutely. Yeah.
A good example of that is Hawaiian coffee, Kona coffee. It's not a lot of people carry it because really good Kona coffee is $20, $30, $40, $50 a pound. And so that's very expensive. And because all the labor that goes into just producing coffee.
Yeah. The story earlier about the financial aspects of Haiti and the Dominican play a part in this, and perspective about what incomes look like in different places in the world play into that. But so we tour the facility. We see the drying beds because they're on the way to the drop-off spot where the coffee comes. It gets dropped off. It goes through the float process where green is separated from unripe is separated from ripe cherries. It's really hard to pick just exactly the ripe cherries when you're on the farm and pick enough and pick fast enough. Joey had done an experiment with a group down there to have everybody pick enough cherries to make a single espresso shot. And so all these people from the coffee world in the U.S. pick enough cherries to make an espresso shot. It took 20 minutes per person on average.
Wow.
So that puts it in perspective. So,
That's crazy.
and it's really hard to get just the ripe ones off the tree. And so a good mix of cherries show up. So they do this float process, which helps separate the unripe from the ripe. And then those cherries go through processing. They're spun in a machine that separates the outer shell from the mucilage and the seeds. And then there's a whole other process to get it to the drying beds. And then we walked past there to what smelled like a zoo, frankly.
Oh gosh.
Down at the bottom of the hill, and I'm like, what is this? And this is overpowering.
Yeah.
And they started to explain that they take the outer shells, the coffee cherries, and other waste from the area, and they're using the waste that they produce to generate natural gas, which then powers part of the facility.
Wow, that's brilliant.
So they're not only not being wasteful, they're being extremely resourceful in how they maintain stability. Because again, I said power and gas and other things may not always work. So they have found ways to make sure that they are generating their own so that they can keep the processes running.
Self-sustaining.
So the coffee we buy from them is green.
It is great.
Right,
It's
exactly.
Very green.
Yeah, and so it goes even further. So we go inside, and once the mucilage is kind of dried into this, you can correct me if I'm wrong on any of this, but it basically becomes a really like paper-like parchment.
So that's after the mucilage has been taken off. Yeah, you're left with this parchment that surrounds the seed. Yeah.
Yeah, so they take all that parchment from all the coffee, and they have these machines that burn it, that generate more power and more thing, and to power the inside of the plant.
Wow.
That's wild.
And if I understood correctly, because Mr. Ramirez was telling this story, they have solar there too, and they generate so much solar power that they actually put power back on the local grid. So they're really not taking anything from the local community to be able to process.
Wow, that's brilliant.
So all the way through their processes were thoughtful things and frankly super innovative things that helped them make sure that not only the best quality was being delivered, but that it was being delivered in a way that was sustainable and not wasteful.
So you touched on how the farm is self-sustainable, which is fantastic. Talk about some of the ways that they impact the community around them too. Yeah,
so specialty coffee has allowed the Ramirez's to open other businesses.
Yeah.
From my hotel, I went out to take a picture from the balcony of the city, and right in front of me was this billboard on top of a building that said Ramirez Hardware. So they have a hardware store there in town. So
cool.
They need to fix things all the time. They constantly had to order parts, I'm sure. And so one of their businesses, and this is not even one they told us about, was the hardware store, which you don't have to be very smart to see how that helps the community and helps the business.
Yeah.
I talked about earlier how nobody there has personal transportation. I have a picture of this because I don't know if anybody else noticed, but it stuck out to me. When we were on the processing facility, they have like a covered loading patio dock. And the front parking lot of the facility, the only cars there were like our cars and the Ramirez family car. And then when I walked around the corner and I see this dock, it is covered in scooters and motorcycles for the workers that work in this plant. Again, people typically don't have their own transportation, but the Ramirez's have a motorcycle scooter store, and they run the local financing company to help people be able to buy them without having to have all the money up front. And so all these businesses that they do in town, Mr. Ramirez's wife runs a few businesses, but all these businesses in town help them do other things beyond just coffee, and the coffee helps them do these other businesses that are having a positive impact on that local community. We went to visit the mayor while we were there to hear from him how coffee has impacted Jarabacoa positively. But the moment that really got me, it doesn't take a lot to get me, I'm a crier. It doesn't take a lot to get me going. But we left the mayor's office and we got off the beaten path and started going through this neighborhood through some windy roads, and I see a big metal gate in front of us at the end of the road. And they open the metal gate, and these two brightly colored yellow buildings, and I see a basketball court. And we pull in, and I look around, and I see the writing on the side of the school in Spanish, but it says it's the Ramirez School. And so we go inside, and they line us up on these tables in front of a classroom full of kids. And the kids get up, the educators get up, and they're reading us thank you notes for buying coffee, which has allowed the Ramirez's to donate books, computers, in this case, build this school for these kids to go to. Kids were having to walk 15 miles both ways. I say 15 miles, 15 kilometers both ways to school, to class, to be able to go to school. So some kids just didn't go.
Right.
So the Ramirez's saw that need, built a school in this
Was
community.
it uphill both ways in the snow, barefoot?
In that area is very possible. I'll contrast that with, and I'm going to give Matt some pictures to show. In an area about 20 minutes outside of town, we saw a typical school for those rural areas. And I mean, it was little more than a shack. I don't even think it had a door attached. And the classroom was these rough wooden benches that were actually outside in the dirt. And there were like 5 kids standing around out front with chickens running between their legs. Contrasted with a very modern school that looked like a school that might have been in the neighborhood I grew up in, which was really awesome. Now, the Ramirez's didn't just build that school. They donate books and computers to other schools in the area also. So now kids are getting an education. One of the kids, very young, who read a letter, one of the letters basically said, hey, our neighborhoods and our parents were on drugs and had no hope before the school was built. And now that the school is built, it's changed our life, not just in education, but in all the other parts of our life. I mean, that's coming from a child. So
it's really neat.
It's really cool to see how coffee made that kind of impact. Back to those workers that I saw doing all that tedious manual labor. Those are Haitians that have come over for work. They are making 300% of fair trade wages. Not only that, but the Ramirez team has developed a program to actually help them retain legal status to work.
That's great.
In the Dominican. So it's changing their lives and their families' lives back home. I saw a meme this week that was making fun of this, and I work in marketing, so I'm super cynical. But the meme was basically making fun of how, every specialty coffee shop ever will tell you about how, when you buy their coffee, the workers make a higher wage. And talk about sustainability and traceability and all the buzzwords. And I'm sure for some coffee shops, those are just marketing points. There's truth to memes sometimes. But for us, and I know other specialty coffee shops in our area, the people here really do care about the impact on the
Right.
other end, and
Yeah, that's very true.
how our work makes life for other people. Yeah, and not just the workers. There was a really cool moment, and this is one of the pictures I'll give Matt, where the Ramirez's helped develop the fire department in Jarabacoa, and it's a super big fire department, much bigger than the police station. They have 3 fire engines. They have rescue vehicle. They have a staff that wears uniforms 24/7. I may or may not have gotten to go ride the fire pole down to the to the loading
Is there video
bay.
of this?
There actually is. I may not share it, but but we got down and they've got the 3 fire engines there and the doors up for us to see, and they point out the middle truck to me and say, all these fire engines were donated from America, but this one came from Birmingham, Alabama, by way of New York. So there was a fire truck that after 9/11, one of our fire departments here donated to New York, to New Jersey, to replace equipment that they lost in the disaster. And after its useful lifespan here in the States, they replaced it with more modern equipment. It got donated to the fire station there in Jarabacoa. And so the Ramirez's family actually is on staff and on the board for the fire department, so it's something they care about. So it's infrastructure, it's income, it's quality of life things that wouldn't exist without the specialty coffee business. And so it goes much beyond those laborers there working in the coffee. It's affected the entire town. Yeah. All the kids that are going to school around that area, like every time you buy a cup of coffee that is our Dominican origin, like all of these things are being impacted positively because of it, and that's really awesome.
Yeah,
it is awesome.
Yeah, so it'll be a long time before I switch back to Ethiopia. Although there are great things happening.
Yes, right,
there
sure.
in the coffee.
It's a similar thing, yeah. So one of our marketing themes, coffee impacts culture, culture impacts coffee. It's marketing. It is what it is. But to us, it's not just marketing, just like what you were talking about earlier. What are some takeaways from this trip and the things you learned?
I think the biggest takeaway, and it's not specifically coffee related, but I think it gets at the ethos of who we are and who we want our business to be. As different as that group was that went down there, as different as we and the Dominicans were, rich, poor, middle class, skin color, religious background, for the million ways we're different, we are very much the same in the things that matter.
Well said.
We care about our families, and we work hard to provide and make sure they're taken care of. That doesn't change anywhere you go in the world. So when I'm working hard to provide for my family, how can I do that in a way that makes an impact for not just my family but others? And it's the thing I think is the takeaway is that seems like a big ask. Like how do I find a way to do that? The end of the day, it's actually not that hard. It's just being purposeful about how you do life. And in our case, how you do business. And I think that goes beyond the big things like picking the right farm and these social aspects we're talking about, but also how I do my job in relation to my coworkers and my team. How I lead in a way to make sure that their day is impacted positively.
Well said. I don't know if you think
Very well
to
said.
that at
Amen.
all. Very
and
good.
Amen.
Thank you so much, Randy, for your experience and being able to share that with us. And if you guys see Randy in one of the cafes, I'm sure he'll show you all the pictures he has.
Yeah, it's
And, give you even much more information. And I mean, we could probably have 3 or 4 episodes just on this, but do appreciate you coming on and sharing that story with us.
Yeah, thanks for sharing with us. Thanks for. I'm glad you were able to go.
Yeah,
I'm glad we had the opportunity, and you had the opportunity to go. And can't think of anyone better that could have shared those experiences with us.
Exactly.
Yeah, thank you guys for the opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, thanks to Joey and the Ramirez family as well for hosting them.
Well, another successful episode of CoffeeU. We learned a whole lot about how coffee impacts culture and culture impacts coffee, and Randy shared all his experiences from visiting the farm. And we hope you will continue to support us, because as you support us, we can support some of these families that we're impacting around the world.
Exactly.
And we'll see you next time on CoffeeU.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
That was weird. Hey guys, and welcome to What's Going On in Coffee this week. More big news from SCA, the continuing, I wouldn't say fallout, but just news coming from them taking over the Q certification. At Houston a few weeks ago, they signed an agreement with Colombia, the country of Colombia, to make their coffee value assessment the way of scoring coffees in Colombia. And since then, they've added Brazil and Indonesia to that mix. So both Brazil and Indonesia. This is, of course, for Arabica coffee only, but all the Arabica coffee in those 2 countries, along with Colombia, will be scored using the CVA that the Specialty Coffee Association has created. So big news from those huge producing countries, of course, Brazil being the largest producer. And speaking of Brazil, they do expect to have an increase in production this year. That's a change in what they had expected that they released a few months ago, but they do expect a slight increase in production. Actually, that's because of the increase in Robusta production that they will see. So their Arabica probably will still continue to see a decline in 2025-26, but the Robusta will help Brazil ship more coffee out. But that most likely means that any coffee you get from Brazil this year will have a slight price increase. So be on the lookout for that. And as always, you can find great coffee from Brazil from us at babajavacoffee.com or any of our cafes. And for this week's Baba Beat, we will be releasing our new summer menu, our seasonal menu. So look out for that. We have a customer favorite, the icebox lattes, making a return. So go grab you one of those, and we'll have a new tea drink on the summer menu as well. And also, we will be slightly changing our fixed menu, so you'll see some changes. And some drinks will be going away, but I'm sure you'll find a new favorite on there as well. So if you have any questions, please ask our baristas, and they'll be happy to answer them and find a drink that you like. So I hope everyone has a great day.